Good morning, everybody. Thank you all for joining us. A next installment in a long coffee break. My name is Travis Cowan, Senior Sales Engineer at Long. Today we have Rob Curtis with TowerTech joining us to talk about innovative cooling technology and industry-leading efficiency with TowerTech cooling towers. Rob, thank you so much for joining us. We really value your partnership, and we love your product. It's really, really amazing what you guys did turning the cooling tower world on its head. So I'll give it to you now, Rob. Thank you for joining us.
All right. Thank you, Travis. Thank you, Long. It's obviously we have a great partnership. You guys have taken us to heights where we haven't been before in that territory and even beyond. So it's really, really exciting to have this partnership with Long, and it's a privilege to be able to be here today. So I do hope what we have to say would be helpful to you. A little bit about TowerTech. You'll notice on that first slide, we say sustainable efficiency. When you try to design a product, people are looking today to develop something that is sustainable and then develop something that's efficient. And when you combine those two together, it becomes a real challenge. Well, I think TowerTech has been able to develop a product that is truly sustainable and efficient and bring it to the market with good ROIs that make it a viable product for just about any type of facility. So we're excited about things that we have done and looking forward to be able to talk more about the technology. Just a little bit about us from an innovation standpoint. When you look at TowerTech being an innovative company, we strive for coming up with innovative cooling tower solutions. That's what we were birthed upon. We go back into the late 1960s. So myself, I'm celebrating 48 years in the cooling tower industry. And a lot of our talent over the years started in the 1960s. So we have quite a bit of history. But when we started TowerTech in 1984, it was really to develop cooling tower solutions. And one of those things is to be able to figure out a way to save the resources that are there. So one of our focuses is to reduce water consumption, is to reduce carbon footprint, is to make something more sustainable, is reducing the energy consumption. So it really fits well with where our country's headed, where the world's actually headed. And I believe we were a little bit ahead of the curve, and we're trying to stay ahead of the curve with our innovation. So to talk a little bit about the actual product, looking at what the cooling tower design is like, this gives you just a quick little picture. This will be a high flyover today. We would love to dig deeper as interest would come about. So looking a little bit at what you see here, one of the things that TowerTech was developing when we came into our technology is to work on three different areas of solution. And one of those areas was, if you think about cooling towers in general, where are the fans located? Most of the time, they were located on the top of the cooling tower. We could go into the history of cooling towers and talk about how that they went from really the first cooling tower was at the bottom, but then most of the time they in the 40s and 50s they moved them to the top. Well, we replaced that with small diameter fans located on the bottom of the cooling tower by incorporating a water collection system. We patented that water collection system. It has tremendous benefits. And because of that one change, man, there's been a whole array of benefits that took place. The other thing that we worked on was trying to solve the cooling tower distribution issue. So obviously you got to have good water flow into the cooling tower. We developed a self-cleaning nozzle that more than just self-cleans. It's got a way that it does turbulate so that you do not plug the nozzle, but then it also has a square pattern. That's another thing that we developed. And then the third thing, it actually has variable flow capability. Those three things really have put innovation into solving some age-old problems we've seen in cooling towers. And then the third thing was was traditional cooling tower basins are typically open sediment basins. That's what they have been designed to do. And I might just backtrack just a second. The reason we developed this is we were a service company. As a service company, we started seeing these problems, and that caused us to move toward innovation to solve these issues. But the sediment basin, we eliminated that and replaced it with what's called a flow-through basin that allows you to move the water very radically, which allows us to reduce a lot of things from a consumable in a tower. You can have reduction in water consumption. You can reduce chemical treatment costs because of now a flow-through basin, which we're going to dig into here with the next slide. That's going to let us kind of dig more into the cooling tower technology itself. So when you look here at all the components here, I'm going to try to go in and kind of walk us through the cooling tower. So we're going to act like a drop of water flowing through the tower. And so if you start at the hot water inlet connection that you see there, we actually flow water through a traditional header lateral system that you would have in a counterflow design, but then it hits our spin-free distribution nozzle. This distribution nozzle is different than other distribution nozzles in that it has a large orifice design. So traditional nozzles are typically 1/2 inch to 3/4 inch opening. Our nozzle's 2-inch opening. And we were able to develop a way that as the water flows through, we spin the water in a disc that we have in that large 2-inch opening, and now it sprays the water out, but it has self-cleaning action. So by getting the self-cleaning action, you don't have to put people up on top of the cooling tower to always have to go on top and get exposed to cleaning the nozzles out on a regular basis. The second thing that the nozzle does is it actually generates a square pattern. If you think about cooling towers, they're designed in squares and rectangles. That's what we have. But we have round pattern nozzles that distribute water in round patterns. Well, TowerTech developed a square pattern distribution system, so now it mates up better and you have even distribution. The third thing is the variable flow capability. Cooling towers have been on-off pieces of equipment for years, and what happens is you have to, if you reduce flow across the distribution system in cooling towers, you lose your pattern, which means you're not covering the fill material effectively, which means you have a reduction in performance, and you also have increased maintenance that can happen because you're getting wet and dry with your media. TowerTech's development of that spin-free distribution has variable flow capability from a 3-to-1 turn-down ratio, still covering 100% of the surface area, has tremendous impact on energy, on maintenance, on the safety, and even the longevity of the distribution system and the whole cooling tower. So then as we leave the distribution nozzle, we're spraying the water over heat transfer media, which I'd love to say, oh, we're very innovative, but we just use a traditional media. It's been out since the 70s when Carl Munters developed what's called a film material, getting away from the old splash film materials. And so, yes, we could get into the technology of it and how it has its efficiencies and things of that nature. But in reality, most film medias are very similar to each other. It's just a matter of choosing the right one from a water quality standpoint. So then as the water goes through the fill material, it hits another component that we developed, and that is a water collection system. So at this point, what's happening is the water is flowing out of the fill media into these channels. Those channels are collecting the water and distributing it to the perimeter of the cooling tower, which now becomes your basin. However, air is being pushed up through the cooling tower, and it can flow through the water collector and hit the fill material, go up past the water distribution system through the drift eliminator out top. So we're an upflow design, but we can collect all the water into this perimeter basin. So then the water from there, it goes on the perimeter basin and runs along the side of the cooling tower, and then it will hit a side mounted sump box here that you can see that has a lid on the top of it. Inside that sump box is your suction screen and your makeup valve and your equalization connection. And so what we're doing is we're wanting to keep people outside of the cooling tower. Nobody wants to go in the cooling tower. And if you can develop a design that mitigates and minimizes going inside the cooling tower, you've truly made something safer and even more sustainable. And so our side-mounted sump box has everything in it that you would go look at. So you'd no longer have to go inside the cooling tower to check your float valve or to clean your suction screen. You just don't have to do it with the TowerTech design. And that's something that that was important to us to keep people out of the cooling tower. Then when we move over back toward the cooling tower itself, and you see the bottom-mounted direct drive fan motor system. So this, again, is a little different than what you would traditionally see. So traditionally you have top mounted fans, gearboxes, belts, drive shafts, things of that nature. TowerTech uses a bottom mounted design, which now has the equipment easier accessible to you, not having to put people up on top of the cooling tower, elevated in situations where people could slip and fall, especially in icing conditions and things like that. So you can be at grade level, you got access to your mechanical equipment. The other part of that is now your mechanical equipment is a direct drive piece of equipment which uses multiple fans and motors. So you're using 5, 3, 7.5 horsepower motors with small diameter fans, as compared to a traditional design that has a larger 50, 75, whatever it is, with larger diameter fans that you usually have to use cranes, scaffolding, something to get that mechanical equipment off the top of the tower. So with TowerTech, you can go in and remove that fan and motor, being on grade level, and it's a 17, 18 pound fan. So it's real easy to remove. And then the third feature of that is it is a multiple fan system. So we use what's called fan array technology. Actually, TowerTech originated that technology in 1990, 91. And we gained a reputation for that design concept in a cooling tower. And I guess it was received so well that the airside began developing that after us. And obviously, it's gained a very strong reputation as fan wall or fan array technology on the air side. But we actually originated that ourselves in the cooling towers years ago. And so, excuse me, with that, you're able to go in, and if we have on a single module, if we have a fan go down or a motor go down, you can still keep your other equipment operating while you're replacing that mechanical motor or fan. So we have redundancy, we have reliability built in with that. Last up on that is that mechanical equipment operates in the intake airstream. So the coolest air is coming in and contacting that fan and motor, the coolest, driest air. As it goes through the cooling tower, it gains heat and moisture. And that is typically where traditional mechanical equipment is located. So we put it in a less compromised environment from a longevity standpoint. And then lastly, excuse me, we have the cooling tower structure, the basin, the casing of the cooling tower. Actually, the whole cooling tower is made from an inert material, so it's non-corrosive and gives you greater longevity. So our basin, our casing, our structure is made from pultruded FRP. All the other components are made from a polymer material, whether it's the film material, the water collector, the nozzles, things of that nature. And the only thing metal on the tower is our hardware, which is 304 stainless steel, and our mechanical equipment support for the fans and motors, which again is 304 stainless steel. So you get the longevity of a product life that is not going to be susceptible to the corrosion that happens with a metal piece of equipment. So with that, I believe I'll move down to the next slide, which is kind of a recap of a lot of the solutions that we came up with and the benefits. So we won't just read them all and go through each and every one of them, but I'll touch on a few as we go through this. And one of the things that's important to me, because I've been talking about this for many years, is being able to provide a reduction in energy for a central plant. And that's what, when you have a cooling tower that has true variable flow capability, you can impact not just the cooling tower, you can impact the central plant. And because of that, we provide the lowest kW per ton at part load efficiencies. So when you're running the plant at less than full load, because of our variable flow, we can take that condenser flow and put it across more surface area efficiently, and it allows the condenser water temperature to drop. We actually have a PACE program we can run and an analysis we can run. That's just one item on the ROI. There's several others from a chemical treatment standpoint and things of that from a consumables that we reduce. The reliability of it, I think it speaks for itself. You know, one of the best ways to make something more reliable is eliminate the components that are unreliable. And so when you can eliminate gearboxes and drive shafts and belts, then you eliminate those components that cause that. And our multiple direct drive fan system really provides some high reliability for an owner that they don't have downtime. From a maintenance perspective in general, about an 80% reduction when you look at the IOMs of TowerTech versus a traditional design cooling tower, what's in that from a maintenance perspective. And it's due to the technology that we came up as people that service cooling towers. From an installation standpoint, the tower is completely installed. Excuse me, completely assembled. I wish it was completely installed, but it's completely assembled. So when it arrives on job site, you literally 30 minutes from the time it arrives, you set it in place, you're ready to pipe and wire it. So there's no like bolt kit or seal kits or anything like that. You've got to do assembly instructions because the tower is ready to go. And I think that maintains the quality of the product when you do that. The other thing from a safety aspect, keeping people outside, not on top of the cooling tower, is an important thing. And then eliminating those components that cause maintenance means you're not risking yourself by having to do those maintenance regimens. The longevity of the product speaks for itself with our 15-year parts and labor warranty on the casing, the basing, and the structure of the tower. A pretty exhaustive warranty. We expect 35 plus years out of the tower. From a sustainability standpoint, I think a reduction in the chemical treatment cost, reduction in carbon footprint because we reduce energy required. And then our variable flow self-cleaning nozzle has a sustainability about it that once you put the cooling tower in, it holds its performance throughout the life, as opposed to something getting dirty and you lose performance and you don't know it. And so it can't sustain its original design performance unless you go do something to it. TowerTech's able to sustain it for much longer periods of time. We'll see something in a minute. Moving to the aesthetic side of it, is we try to design the tower so it doesn't look like a cooling tower, and so you really don't. When you see the pictures of it, it kind of speaks for itself, and that it kind of blends in with the building. We are ISO 9000 product, so we acquired that. So our manufacturing is eliminating errors for the owner. That's what really that does, is we find it at the plant, we get it at the plant, so you don't see it from an owner level. One thing about our technology, when you look at the Legionella side of things, TowerTech has broken that chain of Legionella developing in a tower. That's something that's very difficult to do, but we've been able to do it because we have a flow-through basin design, because no sunlight hits the water. We don't feed or breed it. And our drift elimination system is the lowest in the world, 92% less than traditional designs. So if you have owners that are concerned about the potential for Legionella and people getting exposed to it, TowerTech is a good choice to help mitigate and actually eliminate it. So a few pictures as we finish up here is you can kind of see how the tower itself just kind of blends in with the building. You don't have fan shrouds or anything at the top of the cooling tower to see. So it's from architecturally a little more pleasing that you would see. And there's some other, I think maybe another picture in there of another on a hotel where it kind of blends in well, and see that it's more architecturally pleasing than what you would see with something sticking out a whole lot more. One thing that TowerTech is implementing, we implemented a couple years ago, is TowerTech has what we call the TowerTech Roadshow. And we are actually going to be in Denver. We go throughout the nation during the year. This year, we're kind of focused on the West Coast. It's making its way back over to Denver. And so we are going to be actually at the Long open house that they're having. And we'll be having an operating cooling tower. So this tower actually will be in operation, so you can see it. You can see how the basin turbulates. You can see how the water collection system works. You see the nozzles. You get to see the fans. It's actually an operating tower that we'll have at the Long open house, and we're excited that they have partnered with us on that. So with that, I know that's a quick high flyover of the technology, but I just want to say thank you for the opportunity to be able to at least give you an introduction to it. And we look forward to whatever else we can do to bring this technology to each and every one of you.
Rob, thank you so much. Yeah, great partnership. Looking forward to seeing you at the Roadshow. At our open house that we're having, our Longtoberfest. Next week, Bobby Henderson's going to be hosting the coffee break and doing a hydronics and plumbing update, new and featured products. So please join us for that next week. Sorry, it went a little bit long, but thank you all for hanging in with us. We appreciate it. Hope you have a great week. Be safe. God bless. Bye-bye.